Okay, I think we are about a minute ahead of time, which is okay with me. Hello, I'm Annie Brock. Welcome to the Leader Transition Institute's August 2023 coaching and training session. If you are new to LTI, we are a Maryland based nonprofit organization that operates globally. We teach and coach on all things communications and leadership in the corporate and government sectors to provide revenue for our nonprofit mission, helping service members, veterans, and their spouses transition from military service into the civilian sector. Our flagship program is Changing Focus, Moving from We to Me, and I'll share a little bit about that at the end. Every month on the fourth Tuesday at noon, we are here to share some teaching and coaching. Today, we're fortunate to have my friend Sheneke Harris with us. Sheneke is the founder of She Speaks, and she is dedicated to encouraging women to embrace their life journey while telling their personal stories, which will help other women heal from their past and walk boldly into the destiny that God has designed for them. Sheneke is a true believer that when women collaborate with, connect, help, and support other women, amazing things happen. She's also the author of the She is also, Siri was talking in my ear for a minute. She is also the author of the Hey Sis Reflection Guide, a combination of reflection points and personal self-improvement challenges to help women become the best version of themselves. So welcome, Sheneke. I am excited to have you with us today, particularly because you are talking about something that so many families are going through right now. School is starting, and it doesn't matter whether you have preschoolers or whether you have college-age students.
Yes,
Life is changing.
it is. And we're going to talk about that today.
Yet, the floor is yours, my friend. I'm going to go on mute, and hopefully I'll stay that way and take some good notes.
Okay, so Annie, as always, thank you for allowing me to grace the platform of Leader Transition Institute. It is always a pleasure to be able to just sit and have these conversations to let people know that they are not alone. So this week, we are going to talk about reset. And like Annie mentioned, people are going back to school, whether it's a preschooler, a college student. It may be you. Maybe you're going back to get a certification or your degree or whatever it is. And I always see this time of year as a year where we're trying to reset and refocus and get back to our norm. And I put norm because being normal is subjective, right? It depends on who's looking at it and what is normal for you and your family. But also when it comes to the military transition, some of us may be transitioning at this time of the year, right? So you've retired or you're separated, or maybe you got a new job or whatever it may be. And now we're trying to get back to some type of normalcy because maybe we've had an amazing summer and we've been out and connecting and doing all these things. And now it's time to come back and be a little bit more structured. Or maybe that's just my story right now. So today we are going to talk about reset. And reset stands for realignment, engage, support, ease into it, and a team effort. So as always, our purpose is to provide you with tools to help you reset where necessary in life during your military transition or any life transition you may be facing. So let's kick it off with a realignment. So I remember earlier in my military career, my previous life, I had a chief master sergeant, which is an E9 in the Air Force, and he gave a professional development course, and we were talking about balance and alignment. And I loved his thought process because he was like, there's no such thing as balance. Now, some of you may disagree, and that's okay. But what he said was, it's all about alignment. How do things align with what you have going on? Because when you're trying to balance, right, you're just trying to make sure that the scales don't tip over. You're not doing too much of one thing. But when you're aligning something, you are seeing how it fits in your life. So the realignment piece for me, I've had to realign some of my priorities and my systems in a short period of time because I had a nice summer. You know, we were out having a good time. My oldest was working for the first time, so there was a lot of driving back and forth. Me and the little one didn't really have any big responsibilities, so we were out, you know, cruising the streets, finding some fun things to do. And now we are back in school and we have to realign our priorities and our systems. So where hanging out was a priority or staying up late or doing all these things, now we have to get back to going to bed at a reasonable hour. And I'll tell you, it was a struggle this week, and it's only Tuesday. I laid in the bed this morning and I told my husband, I said, oh, it's just so rough to get up. And I'm not even the one going to school, right? I'm helping get the kids together. But also, we've had to realign our systems. And I'll be honest, I'm one of those parents, the kids are on summer vacation, I'm on summer vacation. Everything goes out the window. You know, the dishes get washed when the dishes get washed. Now, they're not piling up. However, I'm just not as structured during the summer because I feel like we all need a break. So with that, you have to prioritize your priorities. I know you're like, prioritize your priorities. What's important during this time, right? So if you're moving, maybe the priority is, I just want to get everyone to our next location and get them settled. What does that look like? The things that we want to do, does that align with that priority of us moving and settling, right? Maybe you have to put off meeting the family or seeing the family until the beginning of the year because right now you're traveling, you're trying to get your TMO done, you're trying to get that last move, you're trying to do all of these different things. So unfortunately, you may have to say, I would love to do this. However, it does not line up with our priorities at the moment. And I know when you say it, it can sound so cold and so rough. But there are different ways to have these conversations, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And then when it comes to your systems, what systems work for you? I'm not a checklist person, but I've started using my phone, and I know I've talked about this before. And Annie and I were just talking about our calendars. We have a family calendar now. Does everybody use it? My teenager don't have access to it. And my husband, he forgets. However, it's also just realigning your systems. Maybe what worked in the summer isn't going to work right now. And maybe you have to shift or realign it to make sure that it works for you. So maybe your spouse did a lot of teleworking in the summertime. And now it's end of year closeout. So they have to be in the office or they have to be, you know, in the building doing certain things. How are we going to realign our family system to make sure everyone still gets what they need in the time that they need it, but we don't overwhelm ourselves or we're not resentful? You got any questions about that or comments, Annie?
I resemble those comments. And you know, I would push back on one thing, and that is that what my husband and I did was we made our calendar available to the teenagers. We sent them appointments so that they knew what we had family things going on, and it got them used to working with the calendar. So when they went off to college, it wasn't something new to them.
Oh, she has access, but she says she doesn't have access.
Oh, I gotcha. I
Yeah.
gotcha.
Now my 10-year-old, she's all in the calendar. So I see you have brunch on this date with so-and-so. So everyone has access, but my 15-year-old, for some reason, she can't see it. So
I'm sorry for misunderstanding that, but I totally understand.
So the next thing is engage. So what you want to do is you just want to make sure that you are engaging with those who are around you intentionally, right? And I say that because it's easy to do the normal, hey, how you doing? good morning, good night, or you talk about what's going on in the week. But as we are resetting, you may have to be a little bit more intentional about your communication. So I'll give you an example. Over the summer, sometimes I see my oldest, sometimes I don't see her, but it's because she's an introvert, she's in her room. But, we have this thing. I'll text her, right? Because that's the communication. And I'll say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. And that's code. And she comes downstairs and we talk and we have a conversation and we go, right? But what I love is the fact that we know her communication style, which isn't just text message. I don't want anyone to get that mixed up. But when my mother calls and talks to her, she knows her personality and she's intentional about her conversation that she has with her, even in the length of the conversation. Sometimes we miss out on truly connecting with people because we want them to communicate the way we want them to communicate instead of communicating with them the way that they need to be communicated with. So when I say be intentional about it, it's don't just ask the question and then go on about your day. Prepare yourself to get a response that you may not have been expecting. Because maybe in that communication, someone really needs to talk. So when I say reset, it's slowing down and being intentional about engaging with the people that you have surrounded yourself with, or maybe the people that you interact with on a daily basis. So I was really excited about when I came up with engage, because if you think about it, we're all busy. Everything's busy. We're going here, we're doing this, we're doing that. But we have to be intentional about engaging people and meeting them where they are, but also being intentional about that communication piece.
And you know what, Shanika, I think that is really key, um, particularly with our kids,
Mhm.
regardless of what age they are, to engage with them regardless of where they are, because sometimes when and this happens with other people too, when if people aren't good connectors,
Mhm.
we sometimes leave them off to the side because we
Yes.
think they don't want to. And more often, it's not that they don't want to. Maybe it's that they don't know how, they're
Mhm.
uncomfortable. And so I love what you said about your teen, that you text her when you haven't seen her for a while, but that you generally give her space over the summer. And I love that she knows the code and comes and then interacts. I think that makes a huge world of difference.
Yeah. And even with my spouse, we have become more intentional about engaging each other. He's a black and white, by the book, and I'm the one that's color and butterflies, and we meet in the middle when we're having conversations, because I realize he's a straight to the point. He needs the stats, he needs the numbers, he needs these things in order to be able to process. And me, give me it all and I'll pull out whatever I need and I go from there. So I just think it's very important to make sure that we are, engaged when we're communicating with each other.
So I have a question for you, because I think that many families, and I say families in a big, open, broad
Yeah.
way, to
Mhm.
include couples,
Yeah.
because I think that sometimes couples or people who are now empty nesters, sometimes are missing on the engagement piece when they're really busy. Do you have in your family, or what do you think of having designated times, like a Sunday family dinner, or whatever day of the week family dinner works, that kind of thing?
Yes, I do. So, and it's funny you mentioned that because the way my spouse and I grew up, family dinners were not his thing. They would get dinner and disperse. In my house, we would sit at the table, we would talk, and we would do those things. So we make at least Sundays where we sit down, we have a conversation while we're eating dinner, right? that seems to work for us because Sundays, the kids aren't trying to hang out with their friends. Everyone's resetting for the week on Sundays. So whether it's brunch that my husband is known for in the house, or it's dinner, which is what, I'll cook, that's when we spend that time. But also with him and I don't work right now. And I make sure I get up in the mornings and I talk to him, while he's getting ready for work. I walk him out to his truck. And then, it gives us that time to have that meaningful conversation. I tell him to have a good day and he drives off, right? And then even with just us trying to connect a little bit more, we have decided that on Sundays, we would read a book together, break down the chapter. And it's interesting because my husband is not a reader like that, but we both met in the middle on this and it's working. Now, is everybody's relationship going to be perfect? No, but that's the communication piece. And that's where you find out, how can I truly engage and connect with you, even though we have all of these things going on. And then with the girls, we kind of do it different. I'll spend time with one the way she would like, and then the other, how would you like to spend time? And then him and I, we swap. So it's just a matter of finding out what works for each person in the house, no matter what your family unit looks like.
And that's important. That, is to not make those assumptions that just because we're a family, that we are all operating the same way.
Right. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So next is what we all like to talk about here at LTI, and that's support. Because we cannot do these things alone, and we're not meant to do them alone. So when I talk about support here, I'm talking about supporting others and receiving support, right? So I think the first thing that you have to do is be honest with yourself. What type of support do I need? And what type of support am I looking for? And then you have to be honest with others, right? Being able to say, I need the support. And I understand it comes with trust, it comes with communication, and it comes with life experiences on if you're able to open yourself up and be vulnerable for the support, or being able to extend the support. So when I say get honest with yourself, for me, I had to be honest with myself and say, Sheneke, you cannot do everything on your own. As much as you would like to, you just can't. It's humanly impossible in my life to do every single thing I need to do on my own. And that's where I had to get honest with myself. But I also had to be honest with my spouse and say, this is what I need from you. This is the type of support I need in the household. If you can just, I'll keep it simple. Make sure the trash is out every Tuesday morning. I can make sure it gets pulled back at the end of the day and it's ready, for the trash cans to get cleaned on Wednesday. But as simple as it is, that saves me so much time. Instead of me running around trying to get everything together and go out, it just saves a lot of time. So it's being honest. And I know that is a simple example, but sometimes that's all it is. It's just the little things that add up that help relieve stress. They help relieve just a lot of things that it's like, something as simple as washing dishes, And I know my examples are very simple, Annie, but it's just, I try to apply the practical because sometimes it's not something that's extravagant that's bearing you down. It's the little day-to-day things.
That's what I was just thinking. As you were talking about that, I was thinking that's the thing that we need to remember, that sometimes it is the simplest things that make the hugest difference.
Yeah.
It doesn't, when we need some help with something, it doesn't need to be some huge thing. Sometimes just knowing that knowing that your husband's going to take the trash out on Tuesday nights, you don't have to think about it. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
That it gives you brain cells room there to think about something else.
Yes. So when we're asking about support, because I know sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable, ask yourself and others, what does that support look like? how can I be supported? But also, how can I support you? Right? Because I believe in relationships being reciprocated. If you need me, I need you to know that I'm here. But the other thing is, we need to be honest with ourselves in how much we can truly give people when they ask for support.
Yeah, and sometimes we overpromise, don't we? And then we
We,
underdeliver. I
we do.
think, and the sad part is, I think we're more prone to do that with our family
Yeah.
than we are with anyone else.
And that's a big thing. And sometimes it takes that being honest. No, you're asking for this and I can't do it. And I tell my kids, no, I can't do that right now. But if you let me get through this meeting, when I get done, we can go to the QT and get the slushie that you want, right? Because I want to go spend this time with you, but I already have this on my calendar. And I've noticed that communicating with them, I can't do it right now, but I can do it later or at another time, or this is what I can do. It makes all the difference.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. When my daughters were in college,
Mhm.
I tried to be available to them, whenever they needed me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to give them attention when they needed it, and
Mhm.
and give them my 100% attention. I didn't want to have to say I can't do it right now.
Yeah.
And so I tried to encourage them to schedule appointments with
Mhm.
me so that I could, I would give them 100%. That didn't go very well.
Yeah.
They and so I just had to say, okay, because I didn't want to have to say to them what you just said. I can't do it now, but I can do it later. I didn't want to have to say that. I wanted to say, we have this time blocked, and I'm going to do 100%
Yeah.
for you. But yeah, I had to learn that it's okay to say that.
It is. And the funny thing is, when you communicate it, I feel like they take that better when you're just honest with them. I can't do that right now. And I'm thinking that, there's going to be oh, mom. And they're like, okay. And then when the
Yeah,
meeting,
and that I thought the same thing, and that's why I said, if you just schedule an appointment, then you have me, But no, they were fine with me saying I can do it later.
yeah. So that's important. So for those of you that are listening, your support systems and how you can support others, that is important. And
And
then,
I will tell you too that I want you to really hammer home, Sheneke, that the importance of being willing to accept help, when it's offered, not just asking for it.
yeah, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one because that's a good point, Annie, because sometimes people see that we need the help before we're willing to say anything. And when it is offered, this is where you have to humble yourself and in most cases take the help, especially if it's from people who care about you. And sometimes it can be a complete stranger who has been led to help you in a way. And yes, you should open yourself up to receiving that help. Now, we do understand some life situations, you're still a little apprehensive about, maybe they want something in return, but you have to keep in mind that there are still good people out there who really just want to help you. They don't want anything from you. They just know that in this moment, they have what you need or they can help you and they want to give it to you. So I would say
Yeah.
just, open up a little bit. You never know how life-changing that can be. So thanks for bringing that. That's a good point.
It's something I struggle with, and it's something that happened to me last week, and I was smart enough to say yes, even though I finally turned down the help at the last minute. I was on travel. I hurt my leg, and my car was at the airport, and my husband was wondering, was I going to be able to drive home okay from the airport? And so he set up this thing with my daughter, with Kristen, and they were all set on Wednesday night to come down to the airport and pick me up. And he was going to go take the shuttle and pick up my car, and she would just take me home. And when he first messaged me about that, I was like, I don't know. I know it's a really good idea, but and I said yes. I said yes. My leg ended up being in much better shape, and I was able to drive myself home.
Yeah.
But I think when you said it, key, when people recognize that we need help before we recognize it, I think it's important that we be open to that.
Yeah, it is. So thank you. That was a very good point. So next, when it comes to resetting, the E, and I had to get creative, just ease into it. Don't overdo it, right? Don't cold turkey unless it's something that you know you've been procrastinating on for 8 months. Then that's different. But also don't rush the process, right? I have learned over the past few months, it's very important to practice patience because, and I think I've said this before, social media, which is a very great tool for connecting and inspiration and all those different things, but in some cases, it can make you feel as though you are behind. And in some cases, you just need to practice patience. It's not that you aren't doing what is required. It's just that in this moment, maybe there's something that we need to learn. So even when you are resetting, because, sometimes we look at a reset as something that we can look at it as something negative, but then there are those of us who look at resets as something positive, where it's a moment where we get to try it again and do things differently. So I always say ease into your reset because it's all about habits. And Annie will talk to you about habits and how they, it's just a little bit each day,
1%, that 1%.
And you create that habit. And some things to ask yourself when you're trying to rush into this reset: why am I rushing in to do this? Is it because I know I need to, I've wasted enough time and now I just need to hurry up and stop playing around and do what I need to do? Or is it because other people are telling me that I need to rush into this? Or is it because I'm being impatient? And then the other thing to ask yourself, what are your habits? Now, I don't like saying good habits and bad habits, so I'll say good habits and habits that may need some improvement, right? But what are my habits? And then how will I benefit from being patient? Am I going to make a rash decision when it comes to this reset? Am I going to miss out on a great connection with my family or friends? Am I going to overlook some priorities?
I love this, Sheneke, about the being patient. And I think sometimes we aren't patient with ourselves because we can't see the growth that's happening.
Yes.
And so my thought is that if you think about yourself like a toddler, and typically, not every toddler, but typically toddlers either grow up or they grow out. And they typically, in my experience, grow out a little bit before they grow up.
Yes.
And so sometimes that happens with ourselves too. We're growing inside, but it doesn't show on the outside yet because for whatever reason, we're not ready to show that, or the world's not ready to see it.
Yeah. And that's a very good point, because that's why I said don't rush the process, because there are some things that we may overlook. There are some things that we may miss. And it's always good to reflect on your progress, right? I started out here I am now. And I would encourage, make a list of maybe some things that maybe you're like, oh, I haven't done anything. But when you start to physically write out the things that you have done, you will be amazed at your growth.
Yep.
And then the last question when you're easing into it is, can I afford to wait, or do I have to do this now? And that just depends on the situation, right? Can I afford to wait? Do I have the time? Maybe I can wait another 3 months before I hop into this course. Let me focus on, what I have going on at home, or do I have to do this now because this is an opportunity that may not come again, and I'm prepared and I'm just scared. So it just depends on the situation at hand. And lastly, the T stands for team. The team effort. Resetting is a team effort, and everyone has a role in this. And my question is, who is on your roster and what is their role when it comes to resetting? So what is your role in this? How do you hold yourself accountable? What do you have control over? Who is next to you during this reset? Who's supporting you? Who's cheering you on? Who's keeping you accountable? And when it comes to the team, I would just say know what your role is and walk in it boldly, confidently, and remember it's okay to realign your priorities and your systems. It's okay to make sure that you are engaged. It's okay to get support and to be support. And it's okay to ease into this process. We all progress at different rates, and don't ever feel as though you're moving too slow. You're moving at the pace that you have been designed to move at. Now, there are some cases where we got to pick up the pace because we know what our calling is, we know what our purpose is, and we're just sitting on it. But when it comes to a reset, it's okay to start over. It's okay to take a few steps back. This is life, and it's not meant to be walked alone, but it's okay to, retrace your steps and try something different. So, Annie, that's all I have today in regards to resetting, and whatever.
Don't say that's all I have. It's great. don't knock this, okay? When you say that's all I have, that's knocking it. And I'm gonna coach you right here, Sheneke, and encourage you to say this is how to do it. And what I would say is, and I love what Elizabeth just posted in the chat on Facebook. Life is lifing.
Yes,
that's great. When you talk about the role and the team effort, I think it's so important. It goes back to the support piece. It ties in is to know what your strengths are.
Yes.
And so then you can know how the people who maybe you can identify who the people are that can come around you and help you during this time period.
Yep, that is important. You are correct. And so I want to hit on that real quick. Thank you for bringing that up. The strengths and the weaknesses, or areas of improvement, as I would like to call them. Don't get discouraged. That's why you have teams. My husband and I are a team, and I'm going to share with y'all why. Because he is focused, he is analytical, and he is good at what he does. Systems and processes and spreadsheets and keeping us together. Mrs. Sheneke Harris, I am art and creativity and let's go run in the field. That's the type of person I am, but connected and together, we can do some amazing things and include our children in that. We are a team that cannot be reckoned with. So always encourage yourself to love on your strengths, embrace your areas of improvement, and just make sure that you surround yourself with the people, like Annie said, where you're not strong at. Hey, there's nothing wrong with pulling in people, putting them on your roster, and getting them to help you through that. That's an important piece of life in general. So,
Yeah, we don't do this thing called life alone.
No.
No need to.
No, it's
No
too many
need to.
people out here. We can walk together.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sheneke, for sharing this with us. I put all of the high points into and you can see it across the bottom here. The high points of what Sheneke talked about, we'll put it right there, and it's going to be in the chat on all our places. Thank you so much for being with us today and sharing this message. A couple of people have put in the chat that this was really invaluable to them today, and so I appreciate your sharing that, and I'm glad that we could be here for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who watched. And just remember, you are enough and you are going to make it. We are going to do this together.
Yep. Always. You can always reach out to us. If you post a comment later, if you're watching this later and you post a comment, we'll be notified. We'll get back with you if you have a question. If you need some help, let us know. And I just want to put a quick plug in for Changing Focus, Moving from We to Me. Sheneke is an alum of our program, and she also helps us teach it. Sometimes she is one of our gurus on Focus on Your Purpose. You can go to this website. I'm going to put it up here. Where is it? Oh, here we go. That is the registration page for Changing Focus, Moving from We to Me. It's a program designed for service members, veterans, and spouses who are in that range of transition, typically 24 months prior to leaving active duty, 24 months after, but we welcome you regardless of where you are in your transition. Maybe you transitioned 10 or 15 years ago. We had somebody come through the program this spring who transitioned over 30 years ago and found a lot of value in their time with us. So please, if you're interested, go check out what we offer here. It's a 4-day free virtual program. We are interactive. We play with Legos. We paint. And we talk and we support you afterwards, regardless of where you are. So I'll pull that off now, just as I close us out. Thank you so much. We will be back here again the 4th Tuesday in September. And Omar Reynoso is going to be with us, and he's going to talk about veterans benefits, about accessing your VA benefits and answering some questions that you may have for that. So thanks so much, Sheneke, for being here today. And thank you, all of us, those of you who are listening live and those who are going to listen later. See you next month. Bye-bye.